We got some major updates in regards to the story that the Young Bucks and Kenny could be going to WWE, so we're going to talk about it in today's video. Obviously, timestamps in the description down below. Now, you guys might remember we made the video about the Young Bucks being rumored to possibly have sent feelers out to the WWE. Now, Fightful Select dropped a very interesting report. One source indicated that they've been sworn that the Young Bucks asked to speak to someone in WWE management. It is yet to be confirmed, but the rumor has persisted within WWE for several weeks. Now, with Sean Ross Sapp and Fightful Select dropping this big scoop, it is making me a little bit more curious about what is actually happening behind the scenes in AEW, because as you know, I mentioned in my previous video, if the Young Bucks did actually reportedly send out feelers, it would make a lot of sense from a negotiation tactic to try and get the best deal possible. We know that their agreement was picked up as far as an option goes, and contractually they should be with AEW till the end of 2023. Now, what's really interesting, and of course with wrestling rumors going crazy every single day, there are rumors that Triple H and WWE would actually be prepared to offer a multi-million-dollar offer to the Elite if they choose to join WWE. Now, of course, with the Young Bucks possibly going to the WWE at one point, if it is in the realm of possibilities, then you have to wonder what exactly happens to AEW and what happens to being the Elite. Now, I want to talk about being the Elite because it is something that I feel is very important to the Young Bucks and the Elite's overall brand. Obviously, when AEW became a thing and it formed, we saw that being the Elite become part of the AEW content library on YouTube. And it makes me wonder, is this something that we could potentially see in the WWE? How does that work contractually within Tony Khan, AEW, and the Elite? And is this something that wrestling fans would welcome? Also, is this a property that WWE would be interested in? Obviously, WWE is really dedicated to publishing tons of content on the internet between social media, YouTube, TikTok, and all of these different platforms. It makes me wonder, is it a possibility that if the Elite, if Kenny Omega were to join the WWE at one point, would being the Elite become a property that becomes valued by WWE? And what would it look like? Would it be anything different? See, this is one of the crazy things about contract negotiations. You really just don't know. At the end of the day, WWE is going to want to put themselves in the best situation business-wise, and if the Elite chooses to go to WWE, you have to wonder if WWE would actually be interested in this, and you would have to wonder if AEW can technically make this happen. Who owns being the Elite? These are things that people are going to want to find out. These are things that people are going to want to know about, and truth be told, will this affect the Young Bucks and the Elite if they are stripped down from some of that creative freedom that not only they have in AEW, but also in outside projects? The Young Bucks have really gained popularity within the wrestling audience, mainly due to peeling back the curtain and putting out content such as being the Elite. So I would say this is a very strong asset for being the Elite. I think it's one of the biggest reasons why the Elite brand became super significant. And I also think it's one of the things that Tony Khan, if he has the ability to keep it, there would actually be no way for him to really mimic the success of it. I think being the Elite is successful because of the fact that the Elite are the main ones really pushing this project. I also find it very interesting that with rumors of Young Bucks possibly sending out feelers, is there more to the story that we don't know about? Is there a real possibility that the Young Bucks will actually try to make their way to WWE? And the reason why I find this to be incredibly interesting, because now there are rumors that Kenny Omega has reportedly sent feelers out to the WWE during his injury hiatus. Now, this came from Ringside News, and I don't typically talk about stories that come from Ringside News, but of course with Fightful talking about the Young Bucks, there was no clarification there as to whether or not Kenny Omega would also be in the mix when it comes to going to WWE. So for conversational purposes, I beg the question to you guys, the viewers, do you think the Elite come together to WWE, or do you think it would very well be a situation where maybe 2 out of the 3 end up showing up in WWE? And of course, just because somebody sends out feelers, it doesn't necessarily mean that they actually have interest in going there. But we do know that WWE historically did want to bring in Bullet Club to WWE and have a WrestleMania invasion angle. At the time, Hangman Page, Cody, the Bucks, everybody was set to be part of it. And then they got the call from Tony Khan to start up AEW. And now here we are in 2022. We have 2 major promotions, which makes me wonder, how important are the Elite to AEW? I mean, yes, AEW's name is pretty much built off the Elite brand, and it makes me think that Tony Khan will try to do whatever is possible to save these members of the roster. But then you also got to keep in mind the ongoing investigation is happening, and that also means they are in a very tricky situation because they are EVPs. If they lose the titles to being EVP, do they choose to maybe just say, screw it, let's go get that bag from WWE? It's very interesting having these conversations now because a year from now could look very different from what we are looking at today. And if 2022 taught us anything, a lot of things are happening pretty quickly in pro wrestling, and you can literally just never say never. Now, the reason why this is super intriguing to me is WWE has seen a big upswing in viewership on Raw and SmackDown since Triple H has taken over WWE Creative. And the reason why I find this to be incredibly interesting, as I mentioned when talking about AEW last week, Dynamite did very good with ratings despite the fact that they didn't have Kenny Omega, the Bucks, or CM Punk on the show. Instead, Jon Moxley, Chris Jericho, Bryan Danielson, and Daniel Garcia were all on the show. But they had nobody from the Elite and nobody from CM Punk's corner on the show. And now WWE Raw and SmackDown have been doing pretty damn good with ratings, despite the fact that Roman Reigns is not continuously on television, which makes me prompt the conversation that pro wrestling, when you have stories and you have good wrestling and you have a good mixture of both, and you are doing things logically and you are storytelling, that is going to create enough intrigue to keep viewers coming back. So WWE not having Roman Reigns on SmackDown, but then also seeing a pretty big increase, it's pretty interesting. Spoiler TV reported that WWE SmackDown on Fox drew an average of 2.217 million viewers in overnight ratings. Obviously, once you get the concluded number, it's going to be a lot higher. But WWE is continuing to increase. Keep in mind, WWE the week before drew in just slightly over 2 million. So having a couple 100,000 increase says that not only did WWE do a good enough job of building some sort of intrigue after Clash at the Castle, but it also means that maybe Roman Reigns as a world champion isn't necessarily needed for television. But I will say, I think it is important that the world champion shows up on TV. Doesn't matter. I think you need to have it. You don't want to overdo it. You don't want to overexpose it. But at the same time, too, you cannot have Raw or SmackDown without the world champion on TV. Is this a good thing for WWE? And does WWE continue to deliver good numbers? And if they do, will that be a more desirable company to work for possible free agents? Look, even if AEW or WWE struggle or do well, people are going to want to leave companies at any point in time based on their own personal situation. We should expect talent wanting to jump from one to another, regardless of the company's success. But it makes me very intrigued to know what the future looks like. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below.